Everybody, welcome to another edition of A Chapter a Day Keeps the Doctor Away. My name is Alan, otherwise known as Hisui, and I'm from ReverseThieves.com, as well as the Speakeasy Podcast. And this time, I'm very glad to be talking about the first chapter of the heroic legend of Arslan, and it is called The Splendor of Ecbatana. And this might not seem like such a big deal, but this is a series with a big pedigree and a big significance in manga in general, or at least online manga in the US. And if you've never heard of the series, or it's like, I think I've heard of it, it was a series of movies that was licensed by Central Park Media back in the day, if you even remember that anime licensing company. And then there were some OAVs that never got licensed and were not even finished in Japan. But they're based on a light novel series by one Yoshihiki Tanaka, who most people would know as the guy who wrote the Legend of Galactic Heroes novels, which is pretty much one of the most famous Japanese space opera series, super well regarded, just considered a classic, rivaling, if not exceeding, any American space opera tales. And so, for a while, Heroic Legend of Arslan was just kind of this interesting, fantasy series that some people knew about. But as Legend of Galactic Heroes, its legacy has been building up in the US, people started like, what else did this guy do? Because that was really good. And so when people found out, that Arslan thing, that was by him too, there was a little more interest in it. But, light novels, not the biggest thing to, get translated here. Most of them haven't done too well. And Legend of Galactic Heroes is definitely a niche title. So, not a lot of people expressing interest in picking that up. There was a manga series, but once again, that's gone unlicensed. And so, just recently, Hiromu Arakawa, who, once again, is someone you might know as the lady who does Silver Spoon. Now, you know her as the lady who does the manga for Full Metal Alchemist. She is doing a brand new manga adaptation of the Heroic Legend of Arslan. And so a lot of people were really excited about that. It's, the lady who does Full Metal Alchemist adapting the books by the guy who did Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I mean, you don't get much more of a pedigree than that. And it's a return for her to, action-packed fantasy. I mean, I love Silver Spoon, but it is definitely not the successor to Full Metal Alchemist. It's its own really good beast. But if you're totally into Full Metal Alchemist for its fantasy adventure, you're going to be really disappointed when you see Silver Spoon. You go Silver Spoon for the character stuff that you loved from Full Metal Alchemist. And so, seemed like Match Made in Heaven, something that definitely somebody was going to pick up to license in English. I mean, anything the Full Metal Alchemist lady does that's fantasy, adventure, basically a license to write money. And, and it's based on, something with a great pedigree, so. And then, boom! Crunchyroll simul-publishing it just this morning. Boom, here's your first 9 chapters. Basically, a chapter comes out in Japan, later that day, boom, you get it translated. You know what I mean, that's a big deal. That is a hot title. I mean, there have been some great titles that Crunchyroll has brought over. Don't get me wrong. I love Seven Deadly Sins. Great manga. Everybody should read it. I mean, Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. Brilliant. I mean, I always loved Yankee-kun to Megane-chan. And the fact that they brought over her newest work, great. But this is, right out of the gate, something that has an appeal and can bring other people to those other manga. So, I mean, and once again, they saved Sorry Demo. Always a big plus for me. So, I mean, this is a big deal. If there's one title, other than maybe Fairy Tail, that's going to be like a killer app for, the Crunchyroll manga, it's going to be this one. And so, I've talked enough about this, hyped it up enough. What is it actually about? And so we start right off the bat. Big battle scene. Corpses everywhere. Definitely harkening back once again to the Full Metal Alchemist lady that we know. And after, a little bit of swordplay, we get to much less deadly swordplay where we see the young Prince Arslan. He's obviously not the world's greatest swordsmaster. He's not Mad Mardigan here. He's not Zorro. And he's definitely naive. Definitely like, man, I'm just this guy. I'm just a kid. Everybody loves my dad. He's a real warlord, but, a benevolent one. Those are some big shoes to fill, and I'm, just Arslan. And, his sword instructor is like, nah, look, one day you're going to have to take over when the king dies. So, you've got to learn swordsmanship as well as a dozen other skills to be an effective ruler. And, this is just one. We're going to get you onto your other, tutors. And, when it's your time to take the throne, you're going to be serious business. And, Arslan is like, I don't know, but, I understand. And he goes and he tries to talk to his mom, and that's like, wow. She is just like, totally like, yeah, whatever. Just get out of my face, kid. And we definitely say that everything is not super great in Arslan's life. But then he gets a message that his dad has returned from a big battle. One of their allied nations next to them is being attacked by a big empire. And his father successfully routed the invading army. And was returning after a successful battle. So Arslan goes out to see him, and we see some buzz in the crowd of people, saying various things about generals who will obviously be important later on, and about how awesome the king is, and he's definitely the standard King Bradley king type, and he's definitely a distant father figure. And man, I mean, the Full Metal Alchemist lady did not write this, but she really has an obsession with distant father figures. I mean, distant father figure in Full Metal Alchemist, in fact, it's full of them. They're in Silver Spoon. They're, now in Heroic Legend of Arslan. I think she just likes to either write or adapt stuff that has distant father figures. I'm just saying. But they've brought back some prisoners of war that are being, going to be used as slaves. And these kids providing a little bit of commentary people in the crowd that they see, and then they see the slave kid, and so they think they're gonna be some toughs, show the slave kid what's for, because they're gonna be proud warriors one day. So best to show this slave kid, his place, and we then cut, and those kids have been beaten up, and the guard watching the slave kid is also knocked out, and we learn that, those kids let out the slave kid, and he just took the opportunity to break for it and take a hostage. Because the prince was defending those kids from getting beat up and got taken as a hostage instead. And so, it leads to this big, cool chase in which the kid who kidnapped the prince, in between running from guards and jumping over, from rooftop to rooftop. In fact, jumping over a giraffe, at which point the slave kid almost falls to his death and Arslan saves him. That doesn't mean that the kid lets Arslan go, because, him having hostages is his only way out. But it does get him talking, and apparently the country that the kid is known for is this theocracy that's raging this holy war, and everybody in his country just thinks that they're these mindless religious zealots. But he's like, man, we hate your country because our God believes that all men are equal. As long as you believe in our Savior, no man is above any other man. But in your country, you have slaves, and there's a definite case system, and, we don't stand for that. If you don't believe in our God and our equality, then we slaughter you. Arslan's like, kind of see kind of what you're going for, but you're also kind of hypocritical. Because there's definitely believer and non-believer in your country, and that's kind of hierarchy. But, he does get both of them thinking about, what their country is doing. But we see this, young warrior who obviously knows Arslan, named Daryun. And when he finds out the prince has been kidnapped, he joins in the chase, and he seems really confident. Seems once again like the standard good guy buddy character that the Full Metal Alchemist lady likes. So obviously he's going to be a good dude, probably. And so, yeah, eventually the kid gets away, planting some seeds in Arslan's mind, and Daryun catches up and is about to shoot his bow and take out the kid, but Arslan, is like, wait! And that just throws off his aim enough. He basically, not that he accidentally misses, but since the prince told him not to, he doesn't kill the kid, and the kid rides off. And, Daryun's like, why did you do that? And he's like, I don't know. It seemed right at the time. Just slipped out. And he's like, hey, I'll just say I missed. Let's not deal with it. And those kids who put him in danger are about to be executed. And Arslan is like, look, I'm fine. Everybody's fine. Let's just forget about this, Let's just let these kids go. Let's not hold grudges. Everybody's okay. And the kids are super grateful, and they're like, man, we didn't respect the prince before. He's kind of like Prince Milk and Toast, but he earned my loyalty with that. I mean, we screwed him over, and he was mad chill. You got we got your back in the future, man, which I think is important. But and you see him. He's like, man, let me see what's happening with the other slaves, because the kid made a big point of it, and we find out that the other slaves went nuts when the kid broke out, and they were all executed. And the slave master's like, "Oh, you're the prince. You shouldn't have to see this stuff." And he's like, "Man, they just like executed those guys, and they just treat them like cattle." And like, you can see that's obviously affected him. And we cut to the king, and we definitely see a lot of tension between him and the queen. I mean, they're barely on speaking terms. So the king and the queen being distant from the son is just a distance in general in that family. So there's obviously some kind of conflict going on there. And so, the chapter ends with a little bit of ominous, bum bum bum, everything's fine for now, but, the seeds are there for problems. And so, obviously, I feel like a lot of Western fantasy likes to start with the, he was an average, ordinary boy, but with a great destiny. Whereas, Japanese stuff likes to start with the naive prince who has to learn how to be a ruler. And so, obviously, definitely the Japanese mold. I am kind of curious about the slave kid. If they named him, I didn't catch his name. I don't think they named him. But I am kind of curious why all the slaves went nuts. Was it just camaraderie? I mean, or I'm wondering if they basically made a big deal so more guards couldn't chase after him, because maybe he's like the son of a big priest back in the homeland, and so they wanted him to get away out of if he's the son of a blessed priest, then we have to do everything we can. Or was it just hey, one of ours got away, he can get out of this life of slavery, let's do all we can for him. I don't know. But obviously that kid's going to be important. Obviously Daryun. I mean, it's the heroic legend of Arslan, so Arslan's probably not going to die in the next chapter or two unless like somebody takes his place in some kind of prince switch thing. So Arslan's going to be back. It's only the first chapter, but so far I got good vibes off it. I'm gonna try and knock out all 9 chapters as quickly as I can over the week, so that since they're simul-publishing it, I can do these the day they come out. So so far this does seem like, unless it starts going really downhill in the next few chapters, this really looks like the title, even more than Fairy Tale, that could put this app, in this whole project on the map, making it kind of like, the next basically the Crunchyroll of manga. So, good stuff. I haven't said this before, but I feel like this might be a video that gets a lot of views. If you guys want me to look at any other manga, let me know. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna do Hayate all the time. There's no compromise on that one. Yamada-kun and Seven Deadly Sins, definitely. But other than that, everything's up in the air. If people want me to talk about stuff, I'm more than willing to. So, just drop me a line. Otherwise, I got more than enough manga. I can talk about a ton of stuff, especially with the new Crunchyroll app. Tons of stuff. So, but, if anything, I want to talk about the titles people want to hear about. So, let me know. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.